Welcome back for another video. In this video we're going to look at everything the experts are doing this week. It's a particularly interesting game week as we all try to solve the puzzle of Salah, Son, Bowen and Trent. If you'd like to follow this series to guide you throughout the rest of the season, make sure you're subscribing. Big thanks to the experts as always for their involvement. Let's get into it. And kicking off with the manager highlight, we've got 10 experts in the top 10k now. James Cresswell narrowly ahead with a score of 72 points last game week. A red arrow, but he's still number 1 with a rank of 2.5k. Stefan got the biggest score in the experts league with a crazy 103 points. Did you manage to beat the experts average of 88 last week? A monumental number of transfers made this week, only 7% are rolling, 31% making 1 transfer, exactly a half for making 2, and 10% are making 3 transfers for a -4 hit, well one's taking a -8 hit in fact. Lots of swift transfers being made to navigate Son and Salah's absences. 2 experts have got their wildcard active this game week as well. With that all in mind, let's dig into who they're buying and who they're selling. Their top transfer in this week is Foden, picked up by 37%, Estupiñán close behind with 34% transferring him in. As such, 68% are selling Son, 46% selling Salah, and 19% selling Trent. There's a lot to like about Foden. He's in form, 7.9 mil, and he's affordable for anyone that's selling Son or Salah. He's got Newcastle next, followed by a great run of games with Burnley, Brentford, Everton and Chelsea, and of course a good chance of a double game week 25. Ben Crellin's estimated a 70% chance of double game week 25 for Man City, Brentford, Liverpool and Luton. Being in a position where you own Haaland and Foden in a City double game week has massive upside. And we've got an alternative representation of the double game week predictions with this chart from Mikhail Tokvam, and also importantly the projected blank game weeks. What's great about City is they won't blank in game week 26, but they could double in 25. We're going to want to get Salah and Trent if they get the double game week 25, however there's a big chance of them blanking in game week 26 straight after. 4 attacking returns and 7 starts for Estupiñán this season, and he got 1 return off the bench a couple of game weeks back. Brighton have got an incredible run of fixtures long term, and as such gross is being picked up by 16%. His 22 chances created over the last 6 game weeks is top in the league, and among midfielders, only Salah, Elise, Saka and Son have got higher expected goal involvement over that run, and all of those but Saka are unavailable. In Salah's absence, many are wondering what Liverpool's front 3 might look like. Many are expecting it to be Diaz, Darwin and Jota, though Elliott can also play right wing. As such, 11% are picking up Jota, who's 7.8 mil. Again, looking at the last 6 game weeks with some recent form, Richarlison is top among all midfielders for non-penalty XG with 3.39. Calvert-Lewin marginally ahead if we include forwards. And that's non-penalty XG. There's a fair chance Richarlison assumes penalty duties in Son's absence. Another outstanding Son and Salah replacement for 6.9 mil. Interestingly, 3% have opted for Tony this week. Game week 22 marks his first game back after serving his 8-month ban. He's been given a 14.5% chance of scoring any time home to Forest. 8% are selling Lascelles this week, 3% selling Livramento. It looks like their time in the spotlight as budget defenders is over, with Botman and Burn back in the picture, and of course they've got City up next as well. A costly mistake for the 7% that moved early for Bowen. The good news is the injury isn't as bad as first feared. There's a chance he makes game week 22, if not 23. Likewise, the latest on Trent is that he could even make game week 22, if not game week 23. There's a case to be made for holding Bowen and Trent. There wasn't enough time this week to get a wildcard team in commentary from one of the experts with theirs active. However, if yours is active, we've got a wildcard draft to look at for inspiration. If you are considering it this week but you're undecided, game week 22 on paper looks more logical. We'll know a lot more about double game week 25 and also blank game week 26 and blank game week 29. This additional info should allow for a more focused wildcard. And on top of the blank and double info, there'll be additional news on Haaland, Trent and Salah to come as well. So the wildcard's got Edison in goal, Pedro Porro, Saliba and Gusto in defence. In midfield, Foden, Richarlison, Palmer, Saka and Garnacho, and up top Watkins and Solanke. A stacked bench with Doughty, Trent and Haaland. Given the potential return of both Trent and Haaland in game week 22, it's logical to have both in the game week 21 wildcard and then just bench them for 1 week. Doughty should be enough depth for the bench, or even an option to start over Pedro Porro. The most important thing if wildcarding is to have a path back to Salah, and this draft's got a lot in the bank to help towards that goal, be it Solanke down to a 4.5 mil forward, and then a midfielder up to Salah or another route. Everyone's team value is different though, so if you need to make a sacrifice like Edison to a cheaper keeper, that's perfectly fine. Moving on to experts captaincy then. No Son, Salah and possibly no Haaland's given us a lot to think about. It's very spread this week, but Saka leads the poll with 59% captaining him, Palmer is second with 30% and then Darwin with 5%. Beyond that, a couple of votes for Ødegaard and Foden, and then 1 manager captain in Jota and 1 captain in Fernandes. Given that Arsenal play on the 20th of January, while Chelsea play on the 13th, you could make the case for ensuring that either your captain or vice-captain plays on the first weekend of football, just in case anything happens over the week leading up to the later games. Gameweek 21 starts on the 12th of January and it doesn't wrap up until 10 days later. It's the only gameweek of its type for the rest of the season. So for example, if you go Palmer captain, you could go Saka vice-captain or vice versa. Or if you go Foden captain for the first weekend, Darwin vice. It's unlikely that we'll have any problems, but occasionally players get injured in training during the week. The latest projections from fpreview.com have got Saka slightly ahead on 5.9 points, and then Tony on 5.4, Richarlison 5.3, and then Palmer and Odegaard tied just below. Not much to separate the top 5 at all this week, so go with your gut if you're not sure. Moving on to the experts team for Gameweek 21. It's going to be very interesting to see how it looks with all that transfer activity in mind. The team's built from their highest owned players across all their teams, and in goal it's Areola. It's a back four of Estupiñán, Pedro Porro, Saliba and Gabriel. In midfield, Foden, Palmer and Saka, Saka captain, Palmer vice, and the front three is Watkins, Solanke and Alvarez, and that gives a light bench of Dubravka, Taylor and Salah. Not enough transfer activity to knock Salah out of the team by the looks of it. Lots of them are holding on to him for another gaming, which is perfectly fine. If Egypt finish top of their group in AFCON, they'll play their round of 16 match on January 29th, and if they're runners up of their group, then on January 28th. The Gameweek 22 deadline is on January 30th after Egypt's game. Liverpool play on January 31st and it's a very late kickoff, so if you can, delaying the Salah transfer until Gameweek 22 is perfectly fine, given the outside chance of him being back if they're knocked out, or if not, we should have a better idea of how far they could go in the cup. The experts' ownership percentages from last week won't be useful here after such a shake-up to the template, but the experts team looks very well set up this week. Despite Arsenal's woes recently, they're comfortably top of the Gameweek 21 clean sheet odds, given a 51.5% chance. Man City in second with a 37.5% chance, and then Brighton, Chelsea and Burnley all tied on 36%. So definitely keep hold of your Arsenal defenders for now. I'm sure we'll see more of a shake-up to the experts team in Gameweek 22's video, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Let's finish up with the experts' tips and thoughts sent in for Gameweek 21. FPL Prem Tipster says, some FPL managers will subconsciously overlook Palmer because of his price tag. Don't fall into that trap. FPL Addict says, I took a risk and sold Salah and Son for Foden and Jota early to have exact funds for Archer to Haaland next week. Despite the narrative around him, Saka's recent data is pretty positive and I'll be captaining him. FPL Cholo says, after agonising over which mid to go with, Foden, Richarlison, Eze etc, I've somehow landed on Bruno Fernandes. In the midst of the chaos of fitness, availability and rotation, I went with the only guy that satisfied all of the following: good fixtures, nailed, on pens, allows me to keep Salah, and gives me enough funds to bring Haaland to Gameweek 22 if needed. The only thing he's missing, but not sure if it's important, is scoring FPL points. Wader says, I'm actually glad to see a lot of players head off to the African and Asian Nations Cup, as it's going to mean there'll be a lot of different teams for the next few weeks, which gives an opportunity to climb the ranks. Ben Coleman says, this feels like a good week to take a risk with a captaincy. At the moment, I'm planning to go with Jota, who I think could get a big score against Bournemouth. And lastly, FPL Sparky says, with the news of Trent's injury, I'm sure plenty of teams will be taking a hit this week, so don't be afraid to fall in line. It's also wise to hold off for one more week to bring in Haaland. Captain picks could be tricky this week, and finally FPL could feel fun again. Thanks very much for tuning in. Drop this video a like if it was helpful. We'll be live here for a deadline stream. See you all then.